Start off my scarred with a sweet one bliss. Someone flips me a bad body. Oh, it's another one. It's another one, yeah. It's a full run, yeah. Oh, it's another one. It's another one, yeah.
What is going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the STAYWEIGHEDIN show. Today, going solo. My name's Abbas. If you've not checked in beforehand, today we're going to be talking all things Canelo Alvarez, obviously with everything that's happened with PBC. And also we're going to touch on what we saw last week with Jack Catterall and Josh Taylor. But before we go into that as well, a quick little shout out to our sponsors, D-Rock Clothing. As always, if you don't know, iBoxingHub is sponsored by D-Rock Clothing as well. You can go onto their website, type in the promo code iBoxingHub24, get yourself 40% off the site worldwide. And obviously there we showcased a few pictures there where some of the guys that you will know in the boxing world modeling. But yeah, go ahead, check it out as well. With that being said, let's go straight into the man himself. I call him the face of boxing, Canelo Alvarez. We've talked about him previously. We've talked about him just even last week as well. But it's coming out now that he's no longer going to be with PBC. The 3-fight deal that he had seems like it's going to be terminated after one particular fight with Jermall Charlo. Before we talk about who he's going to move on to, let's just break down what's happened. So, Canelo Alvarez signing with PBC, 3-fight deal. It was something that we looked at and we were like, yeah, okay, he's going to be able to get the Charlo fights, the Benavidez fights. We're going to be excited by this. Unfortunately, the first fight that he had was against Jermall Charlo in this contract, and it was quite lackluster. But it wasn't lackluster in the sense that he didn't deliver. It was just the overall fight as well. You had a guy moving from 154 to 168, who obviously from a size perspective wasn't able to go toe-to-toe with Canelo and actually give him a competitive fight. Following on from that, obviously, knowing the fact that PBC not working with Showtime anymore, Showtime Boxing stopping, they moved over to Amazon. And Amazon, we assumed had the funds. We assumed that, okay, the money was there. We're going to be able to carry on these particular fights with Saul, for example. But it does look like the money's not there. PBC, whatever it is, the money just isn't there for him to get his guaranteed 2 fights, being in May and being in September. And with that, we're at this particular crossroads where he is going to be splitting. And it looks like he's back to what I call the best dream team in boxing, and that is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, working with DAZN, Canelo Alvarez. It is for me a match made in heaven. There we go. We got our producer there hitting up Canelo X Matchroom. For me, when I looked at that particular move, when it did occur previously, and him fighting under Eddie Hearn or represented by Eddie and being on DAZN, that was his most successful period. And what Eddie was able to do with him was take him from being a superstar in boxing to be a global superstar in my eyes. Shout out Aisha, man. Big up yourselves as well, man. We're going to talk about your show as well. That's coming up on Friday with Vidal, an exclusive interview on Green Diamond Boxing. So check that out as well when it goes live on Friday. But yeah, going back to my point, with Eddie Hearn, what he was able to do is take what you would call the superstar of boxing, but make him into a global star in the world of sport. Obviously, as I've talked about previously, highlighted by his entrance last year at home in Mexico against Ryder, for me, the best entrance. And now, being that it looks like he's going to be joining up with Eddie going forward, the 2 fights that we are hearing is Munguia and also Berlanga. Now, a lot of people will say, where's the Benavidez fight? Where's the Benavidez fight? He's ducking Benavidez. Put it into perspective. This is a man that has fought 60 times. Sorry, it's got 60 wins, fought, I believe, 63 times in his career. If there's one fighter that is not ducking any single fighter, it's Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, funny enough, is still only 33, so he's in the back end of his career, but he's not in the complete twilight of his career. He is allowed to be as selective as he wants, and nobody can say anything against him. PBC as a team failed Canelo. I agree with that. I agree with that as well, because I look at Canelo and I think if he was still at PBC, yes, you would be able to get certain fights. But the fact that you long it out, as long as you do, you deserve to get the repercussions, which is Canelo no longer deserves to be involved with you. But moving on to that point that I was saying about Canelo Alvarez, as a fighter with 60 plus fights, you cannot then come and say that this man has ducked any single person. His career is not defined by Benavidez. Benavidez's career is defined by Canelo, and that is the difference we're seeing. And that's the thing I want to get across. When you look at someone like Floyd Mayweather, for example, one of the fights when you looked at in his career that everyone was saying you have to make is Manny Pacquiao. He made the Manny Pacquiao fight in the twilight of his career. Shout out Chris, man. Big up yourselves as well, man. But yeah, as I was saying, he made that Manny Pacquiao fight. That was his A-B type of fighter that he needed to fight. When you look at Canelo Alvarez, he's already done that. He's done that so early in his career with Gennady Golovkin that going forward, anything else he does, it's just for himself. And that's the point that I want to push across when it comes to this Benavidez fight and this concept of him ducking Benavidez and stuff like that. Look, let me take Steve's point as well. Big up Abbas, correct. Canelo's fought champions over 50 years and people still think he's ducking. That's hilarious. That's my point. You cannot have a career the length of Canelo has had and then say that he's ducked, because you simply cannot do that. You cannot duck at a point when you're 60 fights deep, and 60 fights deep where you are still the superstar in boxing. But going back to my original point, this Benavidez fight doesn't define Canelo. And I think that's where I think boxing fans now need to just push away and realize that. Because once you realize that, you can actually enjoy what we have left of Canelo Alvarez. And that most likely seems to be Munguia and Berlanga. Now, both guys this year have fought very impressive victories. Munguia, for me, probably has a higher elevated victory level in the fact that he knocked out Ryder compared to Berlanga, because of what we knew Berlanga to be at the start of his career, where he was the one-round knockout artist, and then he kind of just faded into a point of we didn't care too much about you because he was getting the decision victories and it wasn't as flashy as what we expected. I do believe this Berlanga fight would have actually happened a bit earlier had he continued that momentum trail, but it's potentially here. Let's just get this going. The problem is if he's always looking to fight the best and biggest fights and then decides that Benavidez isn't the fight he wants, even though it's arguably the biggest fight for him now, it doesn't. Interesting. It doesn't make sense. Okay. My point being is every fight with Canelo isn't a big fight for Canelo. It's a big fight for the opposition. And Canelo's got the most to lose in every single fight he goes into. So he's at a point in his career where he's giving everybody the opportunity, but you have to also go in there with the element of respect. If you constantly, it's a bit like I call the somewhat Conor McGregor effect, where it's like everyone wants to fight you for your paycheck, but then what do you really get out of it? You're the guy at 168. And also we're at a point as well where at 168, there you go. Benavidez has been compensated handsomely by the WBC. I believe you're right in the sense that he's moving up to light heavyweight as well. But all that being said, it's to say that what does Canelo get out of this? And I always say this as well. When you have so much success in your life or in your career, people forget that and hold it against you. If you were to reel off the opponents at 168, he can particularly fight. You have 3, 4 if you're stretching. And again, we're pushing them because after, let's say he fights Benavidez in May, where does he go from there? Then you want him to elevate himself even further and fight Dimitri Bivol or go to 175. So he's dominated the division so badly that at this point, we are all clutching at straws. But this is my point. Oh, listen, Lucy, shout out Lucy, man. Canelo is still holding on to all of the belts. There's no in the world. an undisputed champion should be fighting Berlanga. I hear it, I understand it, but I disagree with it. And this is my point being that I love the fact that you have someone like Canelo Alvarez who will fight his mandatories across the board, and then every single fight for that individual person who's fighting isn't for one particular bet. It's not a scattered bet. It's for all the marbles. And I just appreciate that more because Canelo is giving you the opportunity not just to be a WBA champion or a WBC champion or IBF, it's to have everything. I hear this. So this comment, what on earth has Berlanga done to earn a title shot? You are correct in that. But my point being is it's always still a fight that can be made, and it also extends Canelo's career. And I think we're at this particular point where Eddie Reynoso and the team love the fact that they can selectively choose because they want to extend his career. By extending his career, it's beneficial for us as a consumer because we get to see greatness longer. And I think we need to, there's nobody's ever saying that he's not going to get the Benavidez fight. I think the Benavidez fight will always materialize because it's Canelo Alvarez. It's not any other fighter. If it was another fighter, honestly, I can sit here and say, yes, we're not getting that particular fight. Just like how when it was Spence versus Crawford, big up Lucy, WBA made Berlanga Canelo mandatory now that the WBC doesn't have one. So there we go. WBA doing what's right, making our guy kind of Berlanga mandatory. But my point being is, you want to extend this man's career long enough so we can enjoy it. And what will happen is we will get to a particular point if he's throwing all the main guys at him so quickly that there's nobody left for him to fight. And then what we're subdued to is him going through what Floyd did, where he fought Berto towards the back end of his career because there was no one else to fight. There was no one else to fight at that particular point when he fought Conor McGregor, because what happened was he had done everything, fought Manny Pacquiao, and then got everything done. Columbus, me, big up to yourselves, man. Eddie pays well and on time. Exactly. Look, Eddie Hearn knows what he's doing as well. Okay, I hear that point. Berlanga is the WBA mandatory, his Morales mandatory. I hear it. I want to go back to Eddie's point just quickly as well, because I think we're strayed a little bit in the sense of how much love I've got for Canelo, because I've got nothing against the pathway that Eddie's going to take him on. And this brings me to my point. When I look at Eddie Hearn, he's somebody that if you want to trust in boxing, he just seems like that type of guy. Doesn't seem like the type of guy to stall your career, and he will give you that right opportunity if you want it. If you don't want it, he's not going to put you in that position. He may push you a little bit, but he knows at the end of the day what is correct. Munguia, for example, again, we talk about the fact that, it may not be as much of a highlight fight, for example. But what will eventually happen is, if let's say he fought Benavidez in May, he beats Benavidez, and then we're like, right, where do you go from now? Morale got stepped over, Lucy. Always a victim in these circumstances. Morale it's true. Certain fighters, unfortunately, get stepped over when it comes to boxing. But pertaining to my point when it comes to Eddie Hearn, I just think he's the right fit for Canelo Alvarez. As I mentioned before, it's just there's just that little blend between them, that synergy that is perfect. Like, Eddie understands it. He understands Canelo. He understands boxing. And funny enough, he arguably has the best platform right now in boxing to showcase a superstar, being DAZN. And that's controversial because when Eddie made that initial move, everyone looked at him like, you are going to a platform that requires a subscription. And it was like, yeah, how are you going to get your fighters to get paid, etc., etc.? And now we track back and we look at boxing schedules. We're like, DAZN has the best boxing schedule. We need to subscribe to DAZN. And with that comes Canelo Alvarez, Anthony Joshua. Terence Crawford is a free agent. I don't know if he's going to fight in DAZN, but I believe he's a free agent as well. So that's the one thing. Let's just look at it. If Canelo is at the point in his career where he's taking a victory lap, fine. You can say he's earned and he's there. but he doesn't get to hold up the entire division doing it. Interesting point. I'll give you that. But the problem is with boxing at this particular moment in time, if Canelo drops the belts and decides, I don't want to hold the belts, I believe Triple G once did this as well, you no longer care as much. And let me put this in a way that doesn't sound so disrespectful to the rest of the guys. Yes, the title fights will be interesting. I would say the title fights become more interesting when it comes to more the guys that are, or guys and girls that are into boxing properly. But what will happen is you will get what we call, like you said, the victory parade of Canelo Alvarez that may not have the belts, but more eyes will be tuned onto him rather than any of the title fights that happen at 168. And that's why I think by keeping the belts that Canelo does, it just makes it better for the sport, because it's like you see the magnitude, that ring walk with all 4 straps and everything else he's earned, you see that and you're like, that's a champion. What you don't want to see, unfortunately, is a fight happening in a small Texas bingo hall for a WBA belt or anything of that nature. And that's the grand magnitude that Canelo Alvarez also brings to the belt. So I've got no problem with him holding the belts. He's fighting through. He's never, ever come out and said, I will not fight Benavidez. And Eddie, I think, like I said, Eddie Hearn, he knows what's best. I want this to work. Look at that. Look at both of them smiling. Like that picture there that our producers put up just encompasses everything that I have said. That is a man there standing next to his promoter, dripped in gold, and just showcases superstar. And I think that's the one thing we also got to work on with when it comes to Canelo Alvarez. He is the superstar of boxing. Even though the heavyweight division is always the peak division in boxing, the biggest superstar in boxing, and will be until the moment he retires, is Canelo Alvarez. Undisputed is happening in about a couple of months' time. Regardless of who wins that fight, the biggest superstar still will be Canelo Alvarez. And that's the point I need to get across here when it comes to Canelo, probably more than anything else, is there's no ducking. There's an opportunity for everybody to get a chance at Canelo 100%. Whether you got to wait, shout out to Steve there, just dropping some information. WBA declared Berlanga mandatory 2 days ago. So whether you've got to wait or not, unfortunately, that's just part of the game. If you are Benavidez, go take a chance at 175, see how you are. If everyone keeps talking about Canelo going up to 175, we could potentially have that fight at 175. Imagine that. Canelo's getting through Berlanga and Munguia, looking around, saying there's nothing else at 168, seeing a thriving Benavidez at 175, and then we have Canelo potentially be the chaser to him. Now, that's a narrative that flips completely, and one that will be interesting to see if Benavidez would want that. So again, we have that particular option there. So that's my point. The Benavidez fight will never not be there. It will always be there. Sometimes patience is better. We still got, like we said before, we still got Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, although it didn't live up to the hype. But I've always said, regardless of when Floyd fought Manny, the outcome was always going to be safe. Crawford Spence, yes, both guys were in the prime. Unfortunately, that fight, again, didn't plan out the way it is. But for me, my closing point on this is, before I move on to another final topic, is Canelo Alvarez has beaten his Manny Pacquiao way earlier than what people expected, being Triple G. He gave him 3 fights, beat him twice. My eyes beat him 3 times, but that's obviously subjective. But he beat him, and now all he's done is continue to grow his career, continue to grow to a point where he's the greatest boxer I will ever watch. And I think we're losing the respect on Canelo. And I want to bring that back. I think there's a lot of people, not a lot of people, there are some people. Let's say I like Canelo, but I don't think he's ducking Benavidez, like so many people say. Berlanga has a lot. Correct in the sense that it shouldn't be for Undisputed, but it is for Undisputed if it happens because of what Canelo holds. If there was a point, if there was a way otherwise, I don't think the fight happens, but it just adds a bit of extra to it. But I understand what you mean, that the world where Berlanga beats Canelo and becomes undisputed just sounds crazy. But my closing bit is just to say that I think this obsession with Benavidez is slowly making people disrespect Canelo for what he's already achieved. Because at the end of the day, what he should actually be known for is being the greatest Mexican boxer we've ever seen, giving Triple G, as I said, his Manny Pacquiao to Floyd Mayweather, his Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. He gave him 3 opportunities to fight, didn't get the win in any of them, and he's just continued to excel his career. And if they have a Pacheco, he'll probably, that's fine. That is correct. That is correct. I'm one of them people that say that Berlanga's not as good as what he ever was, even when he's coming up and doing the 1-round knockouts for God knows how many fights in a row. I didn't really see much of him. But it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt either fighters right now. And like I said, if Benavidez is going to do 175, go up to 175. Set yourself there. Get 2 fights at 175. Let Canelo do what he needs to do at 168. But when the dust settles, and unless there is somebody really out there at 168 that has come through, let's make the fight. There we go, 16-0, 16 first-round KOs. And then we got snooze fest from Berlanga. So I understand it. I think Munguia's probably should be the first fight, but I think it's going to be them 2 in rotation for Canelo in 2024. We are in 2024. Shout out to Canelo again, man. Like, just look at this guy. El Presidente, as our producer Trey calls him. For me, I just call him the greatest boxer of all time. But I do want to just give a quick shout out again to our sponsor, D-Rock Clothing. As always, guys, support us by supporting these guys. Type in the promo code iBoxingHub24. Get yourselves some great stuff on a discount, 40% off. Look, we've got the models there. We've got Joseph Parker pulling it off as well. But yeah, shout out to them for supporting the channel. I want to touch on one other little fight as well. I say little fight. This is going to be the biggest domestic fight of 2024 in the UK. Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall 2. Wow. I was there at the press conference. Shout out to the team for sending me out there as well. Got some great interviews, great content, and being a part of it. I have never seen an atmosphere at a press conference outside of Hearn and Kelbrook that I saw that day in Manchester. I'm talking about the fact that we had fans lining up before media were going in, and it was raining, it was wet, but they were there, and the queue was getting longer and longer. And the moment they stepped in, all you heard was Chorley chants. And for people who don't know where Chorley is, it's a small town in between Blackburn and Wigan, where Catterall's from. And yeah, it was just magic. And that leads me up to what we're going to see on Fight Night in Leeds. I think the fact that it's sold out so quickly is a testament to Eddie Hearn. Again, I say this guy puts his name to anything, it becomes magic. And he's done that again. We've got look, this was a quote from Eddie that I did at the time, and the full interview's out on the YouTube channel as well. But he said it, a multi-city press tour that has great public support, great interest online, and huge digital numbers. And that is literally it. You type it in, they were everywhere. They were on TalkSport. They were on the iBoxingHub YouTube channel as well. Anthony Crawley, again, another interview I managed to get through. Jack as well. Go ahead, check all the interviews out as well on the iBoxingHub YouTube channel. But as an event, this is going to be special. You can tell by the numbers. Obviously, when people say, oh, we can sell out, we can do this, you don't believe it until you actually see it. And I believe they did sell out in under an hour. But I've heard some people say this should have been a stadium fight. And this is where I probably disagree with it, because whilst I love and appreciate what's just happened with the First Direct Arena, a stadium fight, if you put this as a stadium fight, no disrespect to both guys, again, I think it could work. I just wouldn't fully be behind it. The magnitude of the fight deserves a really, really crazy arena, a raucous arena. packed fully, where the sound is so loud that you could hear it on the TV screens. When it comes to a stadium, because it may still do well in terms of numbers, it probably wouldn't sell out, and visually it will not look as pleasing, and the sound would not hit as much as it would do if it's in the arena. I also think when it comes to certain stadiums or stadium fights, they should be left for world title fights, undisputed fights, to keep the magnitude of the idea of fighting in stadiums still alive, and not just normalizing it. With that being said, however, April 27th is going to be special. Like, very, very special. I can imagine that this is going to be, as I said before, a Kell Brook, Amir Khan type atmosphere. What I want more than anything is for the fans, when they come for this fight, to not just come for this fight. Come right at the start. Come for the prelim fights. If you can't make the prelim fight, come for the main card. Get the atmosphere fully up and roaring. Let's get it properly showing, to showcase that it's not just, oh, we're here for the main event, then we're going home. We're here for the full show. We're supporting the guys on the undercard. We're just going to make as much noise before the fight. No, we're going to make as much noise 2 hours before the fight as we are when the fight begins to when the fight ends. I want all of that. I want that atmosphere that I saw at that particular press conference to be on fight night throughout the entire fight night. And I believe there's a strong chance we might get this. As for both guys as well, like, I know they've said whoever I got to win. I think if I'm going to be honest, like, the technical side of things leans towards Josh Taylor, but I can't ignore his last two performances. So this time, it's surprising as well, because I think Jack Catterall, funny enough, goes in as the underdog. I am going to lean towards Catterall. Yeah, it is a tough one. It's genuinely what they call the 50-50 fight. I think Taylor's got a better skill set to him. He's obviously the bigger fight in terms of the bigger name fighter. He's got a better resume. I like that point. I don't think Josh Taylor's in decline, but he's definitely on the twilight of his career in terms of he's had his peak, and yes, eventually once you're at your peak, everybody falls down. So I do get that, but I think what we're seeing is a Josh Taylor that I think personally has gone in the wrong way with this fight, taking out 140, because obviously what he wants to do, even though he won't admit it, is silence the doubters who say that, oh, he didn't do well at 140, he can't do it at 140, and he's doing it at a catch weight because it gives him an advantage. So he wants to remove any of that. But yeah, I will take Jack Catterall for this. I think he's probably going to be a bit more motivated than Josh. So yeah, if you were going to ask me, Jack Catterall, but that is Jack Catterall, 55-45 Taylor. So give me another 2 months, and then then I can give a real in-depth look into this. But like I said, as an event itself, a shout out, man. He does. Jack looks very calm, but also very hungry. And I think he wants this probably a little bit more than Josh in my eyes. But I'm super excited for that fight. Like, if you were to tell me that 2 years on from the first fight, I'd be excited, I probably would have said the steam's gone. But the steam has definitely not gone. I think we've realized that from the first few press conferences. And again, because it's backed by Eddie Hearn, we're going to see it all in our faces. And we're going to see it in a way where we're like, yes, we are ready. When fight week hits, we've got the content, they've got the face-off, they've got the press conferences. Every little thing these guys can do to promote this fight will be available. And the best bit about this fight is that it's free. You can have a DAZN membership or subscription, you've got it for free. And I think, again, that's a credit to Eddie for being able to push the DAZN model the way he has done, in the sense that they can put on an event such as this and not have to worry about it. And obviously, when you got this man on your screen right now, Canelo Alvarez potentially representing you as well on DAZN, it makes things a lot easier as well. But with that, we are going to wrap up today's episode of the Stay Waiting podcast. As always, guys, if you enjoyed the content, drop a like, share, subscribe. Follow the channel for some amazing content throughout the week. As I mentioned before, Green Diamond Boxing, Friday, Aisha interviewing Vidal Riley. That is one you do not want to miss. Shout out to Vidal as well for coming onto the channel. Shout out Aisha for getting that. And obviously, we've got all the usual content as well. Have a great day to yourselves as well, Lucy, man. I appreciate you all guys for tuning in. Until next time, guys, hit up D-Rock Clothing, iBoxingHub 24. Get yourself 40% off. Till next time, stay waiting.
It's another band. All the Muslim cars now, whichever get up. I talk my card with a sweet one, please. Someone flicks me a bag.